It looks like some people are maybe still figuring out how to get to the rooms app. A bunch more are coming now. Greg, if you
Yes.
a PowerPoint, if you want to go ahead and pull that up.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, so I will share my share screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Great.
So I think I apologize. I can't find the sheet with the bios. So if you
That's
wouldn't
okay.
mind giving just like a quick introduction of who you are, we're very happy to have you. But if you could just
Okay.
introduce yourself briefly before you get started.
Sure.
Okay,
Do you
thanks.
want me to start now or just wait a few more minutes?
Um, I think we've got a critical mass. I think the rest of the people are figuring out. So you can go ahead and get started.
Okay. All right. My name is Greg Russ. I'm the restoration manager at the White River Partnership. I have been doing restoration work in streams and in riparian areas for over 15 years. And that work includes soft applications like tree plantings and uh, bioengineering and such, and heavy applications, which would be using heavy machinery. And while I do not work in lake shores or lakes and ponds, I think working with heavy equipment in these sensitive areas uh, are it's very similar. A lot of the skills and a lot of the information that we've figured out over the years, I think, is applicable working by any water body. I'm just going to continue. So my agenda here, my goal is not to get into the regulatory side of things and permitting, other than to say, please comply with your permit, and regulators are your friends and they're there to help you. And then we're just going to kind of talk about planning, sort of procurement and implementation. I said this on Wednesday, kind of presenting it linear, but it's not a linear. There's a lot of sort of like an org chart. There's a lot of overlap between planning and implementation, or procurement and implementation, or whatnot. Um, we all should know that the shoreline area is that 250 feet from the mean water level. The riparian area is the area along the stream, and both are very sensitive and very important ecologically. And so there are things that we can do with regards to working with heavy equipment that would
Greg, can I
less.
interrupt you for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Are you advancing your slides?
Yes.
Okay, we have not seen them advance.
Oh, golly. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm advancing slides.
Maybe stop sharing and try sharing again. Just give it
Yep.
a,
I just
I don't
stopped
know.
sharing.
These things, the troubleshooting on them is usually just trying again, I feel like.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna try something different. Can you see that?
Nothing yet.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna try something different.
yeah, there's kind of there's share screen and there's share window. I think
Yeah.
sometimes share window works better. I don't know
Yeah,
which one you're trying.
I was doing share window
Okay.
and then sharing, so you should see that.
Oh, here we go. It's coming. All right. So I see the
Uh,
starter slide there. Oh, it's moving.
okay. Let's see if uh, does it move now?
I haven't, it's still on that second slide.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just do it this way. All
Okay.
right. Um, so this is just back to talking about riparian and shoreland and how these are sensitive areas. And so planning or design work or whatever you want to call it, I think planning is the most important BMP there is with regards to any project, but especially with using heavy equipment. Um, and and in this picture, I mean, we have a contractor, we have a regulator, and we have an engineer. And that planning process is going to involve everyone: the landowner, um, the engineer designer, the regulators, the contractor, and we'll bring those in at some point. Um, but that planning process is really important. And I think it's very important to know your site, and what that means is, um, and I think everyone that's involved in the process or should know the site. You can see in this photo, a lot of equipment there. This was from a project that took 5 weeks. Every morning at 6:30, we would all meet and talk, and we talk about what went right the day before and what we need to do moving forward and where we're working and whatnot. We're all aware of where those sensitive areas are, and we know that the work we're doing can or could contribute to sedimentation issues, and so we're trying to mitigate that as a team. But we all know our site, um, and then having a strategy. When you when you're dealing with heavy equipment, you know, you need to be organized. You need to have a plan, so to speak, of how you're going to um, use that equipment on at the project site, and you want to have an enter and exit strategy. And that's not as simple as like, oh, this is where I'm going to enter, and this is where I'm going to exit. It's um, I think an exit strategy with heavy equipment is almost three-dimensional. Um, it's knowing not just like where you're going to enter and exit, but how you're going to do it, and do it in the right way. And in this picture, this is actually on a beautiful floodplain forest, very sensitive, and we wanted to do the 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 topography, back knowing your site. It sloped away down to the valley wall with big ledge, outcrop, and at one point was probably a wetland, and it had been cut off historically. Um, and so what we want to do is reconnect it and reconnect those wetland characteristics. And so we needed to get some heavy equipment in there. And so instead of cutting down trees and making a road and whatnot, we utilized an existing unused flood chute, an old flood chute, and we were able to access where we needed to access, and then come back with this flood chute, and then roughen the channel back up, and then open that channel up so that it could actually have water access to it in the future. And so knowing your site and knowing how to get in and how to get out with, without causing or causing the least amount of issues to the resource, but also do it in a way that actually benefited. Um, and so I'm going to do this quickly here. So procurement, and I see procurement as two things. One is as an engineer or as a project manager, you're putting something to bid, and there's what you can do in that bidding process with regards to heavy equipment. But also as let's say as a contractor, what you can do and what you can suggest in the procurement process that would help the resource or whatnot. And that would include equipment requirements and site requirements. And so when I say equipment requirements, you can actually request the type of equipment you want in a project, the size of equipment. And this, we have two different machines, two different size machines in this photo. One is a really big machine. The one on top, it's a Cat 325, huge machine, and we needed a huge machine, but it doesn't have a small footprint. And so the photo on the bottom, and so the one on top, we actually, because we needed big machines, we requested that machine. The photo on the bottom, we were doing a floodplain restoration, removing berms, keeping existing vegetation. And so while we didn't require a certain size machine, the contractor actually suggested, when we put it to bid, one of the contractors, the one that we ended up hiring, suggested a certain type of equipment that would be able to go in and around these existing trees and preserve those with causing the least amount of disturbance. And so that was a way that the contractor could say, hey, look, this is the right equipment for this type of job. And that's something that you can do to try to, like I said, best equipment for the job and for the site. And then we want to minimize our disturbance. You can utilize specialized equipment. You can call for that, including low ground pressure vehicles. We're all pretty familiar with triaxial dump trucks. We see them on the highway all the time. They haul a lot, but they're made for road work. We're in these sensitive areas, and so they're specialized equipment that limits the compaction on the ground. And there's two examples here. One is a mini Hadrima, that's a articulating mini dump truck with balloon tires, and the one on the bottom is a track truck. Big fan of track trucks. They're pretty cool. You can also, there's a lot of different contractors in the state that use specialized equipment. This one is the excavator. Here's the same excavator. It's a Mechalak, and it has a tilt rotating head. And that tilt rotating head allows the excavator to position itself in one place and not have to move, because the whole head rotates 360 degrees. It sort of is a game changer, and it definitely does help limit the disturbance and allows the work to get done. One thing that we require on all our projects is that equipment is cleaned prior to mobilization. This is actually the language in our that we put in all our bid documents. Is all equipment will be power spray washed to remove petroleum residue, dirt, and weeds, seeds, and we do that. So if you have a machine that's covered in grease, and you're bringing them into a sensitive area, and they're going to inevitably brush up against vegetation, and basically you're leaving that grease there. And so we want to try to minimize that. And same with noxious weeds or invasive species. If we can limit the spread of those, it goes a long way. The other thing is that we require in our projects is spill kits. So we're working in these sensitive areas, and we're using equipments that run on petroleum products or are using hydraulic fluid, and accidents happen, and we want to be prepared in case they do. And one of those ways is to have a spill kit. We require a spill kit on site, and you can see there in this picture, there is where the yellow circle is, there's a spill kit there. And we require them in the machine, and we require that all the operators know how to use them. We don't require it, but I do know of contractors that have switched out their hydraulic fluid with vegetable, biodegradable vegetable oil. It's not a cheap endeavor, but some people have done it, and that's goes a long way as well. And we do weigh that when we do our bidding. Let's see. Mats and bridges. This is a quote from a contractor that we've worked with. Just because you can drive through it, it doesn't mean you should. Mats are really good. These are logging mats. If you're unfamiliar with them, they're wooden mats, and they're really useful to bridge over things, or to like if you have like a small stream, or to bridge sensitive areas. We've used them where there's hydric soils and we didn't want to compact, so we bridged over the hydric soils, which still allowed the excavator to get where we needed to go. And so there's a very useful things to have, and you can require them. We came about using mats because a contractor brought them to our attention and said, "Hey, this is how I want to get to where we need to work, and this helps protect the area, and I really want to use this. What do you think?" And we're like, "That's brilliant." And so I'm a huge fan of those now. And then with implementation, this gets into staging and sediment erosion control, and then ultimately the site restoration. So staging, I'm a big fan of small footprints, and a lot of that comes down to optics. So if you're working with big yellow machines by water bodies, people take notice, and rightly so. But people are taking notice, and so having an organized, back to the beginning, and a small footprint, and knowing how you're going to enter and exit, goes a long way with the optics. And so during the implementation, having a thought out how you're going to stage is really, really important. Sediment erosion control. I know this is a requirement with permits about using silt fences and using them correctly. I'm a big fan of the silt stocks. They're easy to use, and the ones that we typically use are biodegradable, and so you don't have to remove them. You can leave them and they will just break down after 12 months. They're made with cotton and wood chips, and they do a really good job. But that's what we use. But it's really important to limit the amount of sedimentation getting into a water body. And this goes back to the planning stage, knowing where those sources might be, and then when you have heavy equipment on a site, how that's going to change it, and then how's the site going to react to the work that's been done, and being mindful of those things. And then restoration, I'm a big fan of that. So once you've done the work that's been for the project, how do you leave the site? Seeding, mulching. We've gone so far on some projects to limit the spread of invasives by requiring the mulching being done with straw as opposed to mulch hay. And then big fan of tree plantings. So this is that berm removal where the contractor suggested the small machine. We punched these holes in, and then we came back in and planted a stem density of 1,000 stems an acre to restore that floodplain and riparian area. So very quick. Maybe there's questions. Feel free to ask.
The fuck?
I will stop sharing. Don't know if that worked. Okay, any questions? No? I feel like I flew through that, but just trying to give folks a kind of working with heavy equipment 101 things to think about. No questions?
I got one for you here, Greg. This is Andy
Okay.
with Valco.
Okay.
Great overview, kind of a high level,
Yep.
covered all the the high points. Just curious if you had any experience you wouldn't mind sharing with the group about that special or equipment specifications. You mentioned the tracked equipment. In our experience, like the Maruka tracked Dump trucks are really helpful for the right-of-way work we do. Another example is like silt fence installation. Usually they use the biggest excavator because what they have, not the right tool for the job. But yeah, if you have any other experience that you kind of found was like, oh wow, that's something noteworthy.
Yes, yeah. So we've you know, so in the line of work that we do, like I said, you know, we're not on lakes and ponds, but we're in rivers or along rivers, and a lot of times you're manipulating either wood or rocks, and it's surprising to me how many operators or how many construction outfits have machinery that don't have a thumb, something as simple as a thumb. And so we recognized that pretty early. So we started requiring, we'll list like in our bid documents, and we also talk about it when we do a pre-bid. So we always do a pre-bid meeting with contractors who want to bid on the project. And we actually, if you don't attend the pre-bid, you can't bid on it. And we go over those requirements. And I'm a big fan of not having, you know, surprises for contractors. Tell them up front, you know, this is what we're going to require. You need these size machines or something comparable. You need something with a thumb or you know, the bare minimum. You know, we're going to require like track trucks or something comparable, and we're always open to suggestions if the alternative is viable. And so, you know, we're paying for it. This is what we want, and you don't have to bid on it. So that's sort of our approach. I don't know if that answers your question, but that we just across the board, you know, I think we've learned from doing things, and, you know, contractor shows up and you're like, wait a second, how are we going to do that without this type of equipment? And well, we didn't specify that. And so we kind of learned the hard way that we needed to specify. And so we put them in all the bid documents for that particular project, what we were going to require.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that in turn requires an understanding on our part of what we need and what we want to do. So, and the equipment that is best suited for that. Anyone else? This is just an overview. I mean, we could talk for hours on working with heavy equipment and the ins and outs of what that means. I just wanted to give folks just kind of an overview, things to think about. You know, when oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. It's really great.
Yeah, I mean, it came up on Wednesday, and I think Meg reached out to me on this. A little bit about procurement policy, but when in our bid selection criteria, for our projects, we weigh, you know, it's the cost and experience and this, that, and the other, but we also weigh what the contractor is going to do to, you know, our mission is to preserve and protect the White River watershed. And so what steps does the contractor plan to do to help us achieve that? And we weigh that as part of the bid selection criteria. That makes sense.
Right. If there are no other questions, you can hit that. It should be like a red button in the top right hand corner that says leave room, and it should take you just back to the main room. Unless anybody has any additional questions. Okay, so we'll go back to the main room, and then you can choose for the next breakout session where you'll want to go.